Please, mighty human. My sister was taken. Let's rescue her together, pleaded the little girl. Please, mighty human, the little alien girl cried, holding out a knife bigger than her arm. My sister was taken. Let's rescue her together. Rig Vassal stared at her, crust-eyed and deeply hungover, standing half-dressed in the desert heat beside the remains of last night's bad decisions. Namely, a half-collapsed bar, a slightly melted hoverbike, and one cactus woman he really hoped was still asleep and not wilting. He squinted at the blue-skinned girl in front of him. Big eyes, long white hair, sad face, holding out what looked suspiciously like a sacred ceremonial dagger at his crotch level. Okay. 1. I don't do kidnappings before coffee. 2. What kind of child wields a blade like that? And 3. Why do you look like you belong on a shampoo commercial for sad space elves? The girl sniffled but didn't drop the weapon. You are the strongest male in the outpost. You once drank engine coolant and didn't die. You arm-wrestled a Kravox executioner and winked at his wife. And last week, you called a mercenary general cupcake and lived. Rig scratched his chest. Okay. I admit, that last one was ballsy. You are Commander Rig Vassal, she continued dramatically. The mighty human. The one who survived the Battle of Virex 9 using only a spoon and your ex-girlfriend's jealousy. Technically, it was a fork, he muttered. And she was really jealous. The girl nodded solemnly and thrust the dagger at him again. This time less threateningly and more like she was handing it over. You're the only one who can help. My sister, Althera, was taken by the Slaver Legion. Last night. From our home. You have to save her. Rig sighed, rubbing his eyes. Kid. I once fought off a mindworm infestation in my brain with nothing but sarcasm and spite. But this is before breakfast. But the stars chose you. Stars also told me I'd fall in love with a Karanax dancer. She tried to eat my liver mid-coitus. The girl blinked slowly. Do you always talk about your past lovers to children? Rig nodded seriously. It's part of my healing process. The girl Chavila stepped forward. You're her fated protector. My sister is gifted. She's the high priestess of the Shadari flame. She can manipulate minds, soothe pain, and was supposed to lead our people out of exile. But they took her. Now she's just gone. Rig opened one eye. Did you say, high priestess? Chavila nodded. Is she hot? What? I mean like, spiritually hot. Chavila narrowed her eyes. She glows when she meditates. Close enough. She pulled out a small hologram projector and flicked it on. A blue-skinned woman appeared, life-sized if life had curves like a galactic roller coaster. Althera's ceremonial robes looked like they were sewn by a cult of seductive origami monks. Her lips were soft, her eyes deep, her cheekbones high enough to file taxes on. Rig stood up immediately and dusted off his pants. Well, hell, why didn't you lead with that? You're in. Kid. I've run face first into a plasma storm for less ass than that. I'm a child. Then earmuffs, sweetheart. This rescue's gonna get inappropriate fast. By noon, Rig was armored up and packing enough weapons to start a light civil war. He polished his belt buckle, strapped the dagger to his thigh, and let the little alien girl skip behind him like a disturbingly eager intern. Are you always this morally flexible? Chavila asked. I'm a mercenary. I bend like wet leather. She paused. You're not going to try to kiss my sister, are you? No. I'm going to rescue her dramatically, say something cool, and let the tension build until she kisses me. That's how adult romance works. The girl blinked. Your courtship rituals are deeply inefficient. Kid, he said, adjusting his crotch plate. Welcome to humanity. They needed information. And if there was one place to get that, it was the seediest, foulest, most gloriously corrupt bar in the region, the Dirty Dragon Saloon. Despite the name, it contained neither dragons nor cleanliness. The air reeked of oil, sweat, and bad decisions, which just so happened to be Rig's preferred cologne. As they pushed through the saloon doors, half the bar looked up. One man choked on his drink. Another dropped his cards. Rig winked. At the counter stood a figure he both loved and feared. Silver cybernetic eye, tight red leather. A spiked tail coiled around a mug of glowing blue liquid. Captain Flarna, pirate queen, bisexual war criminal, ex-girlfriend. Oh no, Rig muttered. This just became a side quest. She turned. Her cyber eye focused instantly on him. Well, if it isn't Commander Vassal. The man who said he'd return after breakfast and vanished for 3 planetary rotations. I had a thing. You always have a thing. Usually attached to someone else. Rig raised his hands. Truce. You owe me a kidney. Truce with mild organ debt. Flarna's eyes slid to Chavila. What's this? A daughter? I didn't know you bred. Client, he said flatly. The girl raised her chin. I'm his sidekick. Also, I'm judging your fashion. Flarna grinned. I like her. She thinks I'm saving her sister out of honor. Oh gods, Flarna said, howling with laughter. She thinks you're noble. Focus, Rig grumbled. You know everything shady in this quadrant. Where would the Slaver Legion take a telepathic high priestess with cosmic hips and a temper? Flarna raised one perfect eyebrow. Black Spire Fortress. Rig groaned. Of course it's called something dramatic. She's valuable, Flarna added. Her bloodline interfaces with the heart of Hara. That's how they'll control the weather towers. She's the key. How long do we have? Till sunset tomorrow. After that, she's auctioned off to the highest bidder. Or worse, turned into a shrine ornament. I swear, Rig muttered. This galaxy has the worst HR policies. Flarna leaned in conspiratorially. One more thing. If you touch her, like, even just brush her skin, she'll bond. Bond. Psychically, emotionally, sensually. Define sensually. She'll feel everything you feel. Want what you want. Dream your dreams. Taste your cravings. Rig blinked. What if I dream about waffles and thigh-high boots? She'll wake up craving syrup and shame. Chavila wrinkled her nose. This is the weirdest rescue I've ever witnessed. You haven't even seen Act 2 yet, Rig said grimly, downing a shot of something fizzy and mildly radioactive. Flarna grinned. You really going through with this? I have to, Rig said, standing tall. Because she's the last hope for her people? No. Because she's the first woman I've seen in months who might actually like my poetry. Chavila groaned. I have made a mistake. Welcome to the club, kid. Rig Vassal hated stealth. Stealth was for spies. For people who didn't enjoy punching things. For cowards who didn't wear heavy armor with flamethrower nozzles on the shoulders. But stealth was exactly what was required when infiltrating Black Spire Fortress. A jagged monolith of dark glass and black alloy that jutted into the crimson sky like a middle finger aimed at logic and subtlety. You know, Rig muttered, crouching behind a crate with Flarna on one side and Chavila hiding inside his backpack. When I agreed to this rescue mission, I assumed there'd be more explosions and fewer tight hallways. That's because your version of planning involves grenades and apology sex, Flarna whispered. Apology sex works. For who? Me. Usually. Disgusting, Chavila grumbled from inside the backpack. I'm trying to breathe in here, and you two are flirting like emotionally damaged porcupines. You know what, brat? Rig muttered. You're lucky I haven't zip-tied you to a parked speeder with a juice box and a hope. You tried. I bit you. That's fair. They crept forward, navigating through a labyrinth of dimly lit corridors while dodging slaver patrols in overly shiny armor that looked like it had been designed by a BDSM fashion consultant with anger issues. At one point, Flarna almost seduced a guard into unconsciousness. Almost. Rig had to finish the job by seducing the guard's helmet off his face and smashing it with it. I swear, Rig panted. Next time I pick the mission, something relaxing, like arm wrestling a bear. They reached the inner sanctum and paused at the sight of a heavy reinforced door with a retina scanner, voice lock, and, oddly, a biometric crotch reader. Flarna blinked. Really? Slavers have weird priorities, Rig muttered, stepping up. Chavila peeked out of the backpack. Don't you dare scan your crotch on anything. I have to live with that memory. Don't worry, he muttered. I know a trick. Is it dirty? Flarna asked. Everything I do is dirty. With a sudden twist, he ripped the panel off the wall and jammed 2 wires together. Sparks flew. The door sizzled open. Flarna blinked. You bypassed a triple lock with spit and bravado. He grinned. They don't call me Commander Hackjob for nothing. They don't call you that. They should. Inside the chamber was the last thing Rig expected. A disco ball. Soft music. Pillows. So many pillows. And in the center of it all, tied in psychic runes, floating 2 feet above a hoverbed was Althea. She wasn't in distress. She was meditating, glowing softly, floating like a peaceful, deeply attractive deity. She opened one eye. Are you my rescuers, or foreplay? Rig froze. I mean, why can't it be both? Flarna groaned. Oh gods, he's already bonded. Althea smiled gently, then blinked, and her glow flared like a neural flare bomb. Rig's brain short-circuited. He suddenly tasted cinnamon, saw the color betrayal, felt warm in his pants. Oh no, he whispered. She's in my mind. Chavila climbed out of the backpack and ran to the hoverbed. Sister! Althea dropped from the air with the grace of a well-educated cat and hugged her. You brought the mighty human? He was the only one drunk enough to agree. I am honored, Althea said, turning to Rig with a look that said, I can see your soul. And your kinks. You're really calm for a kidnapped priestess. They made me their queen. What? They said I'm too powerful to sell, so they kept me here to calm their hearts. I've been running free therapy sessions and hosting wine-soaked orgies on Tuesdays. Rig coughed. That's not a rescue. That's a wellness retreat. I tried to escape, Althea said, but then they gave me satin robes and aromatherapy. Chavila crossed her arms. You said you were dying. I said I was dying inside. Of boredom. Flarna face-bombed. We came all this way for a woman who's turned Stockholm Syndrome into a side hustle. Althea turned back to Rig. You feel strange. Your thoughts are spicy. Apologies, he said stiffly. You're inside a mind that's been corrupted by years of bad decisions and badder women. She smiled softly. I like that. Rig blushed. Well then. And just like that, alarms blared. You just had to bond while standing under the security sensor, Flarna muttered, drawing 2 knives. It was a moment, Rig shouted. Your moments have sirens. Dozens of slaver guards stormed the chamber. Chavila ducked behind a chair. Althea, despite being in ceremonial robes, raised a hand and flung half the guards into a wall with a psychic push. Now that's hot, Rig said, aiming his blaster. Flarna stabbed a guard through the thigh and shouted, You're flirting during battle? It's called multitasking. Althea was magnificent. Her hair whipped around like storm clouds in zero gravity. Her aura flared. Her voice thundered as she whispered into the mind of a guard, who promptly dropped his weapon, wept, and hugged his own knees. Rig felt his chest tighten. Gods! I think I'm actually catching feelings. Chavila yelled, Run or kiss her. Don't do both. He lunged forward, grabbed Althea's hand, and together they sprinted out of the chamber with Flarna, slicing a path through the chaos like a dancer with bloodlust issues. They reached the hangar, hijacked a shuttle, and blasted off with only minor hull damage and one very confused alien stuffed in the cargo bay. Inside the shuttle, breathing heavily and nursing a burn on his shoulder, Rig turned to Althea. You okay? She smiled. You have a beautiful mind. It's mostly sarcasm and beer ads. I know. She leaned closer. I can feel everything you feel, including your urge to remove your armor dramatically. I always undress with flair, he whispered. And to whisper poetry about vengeance and nudity? You read my diary? She pressed her forehead to his. It's burned into my soul now. Cool, Rig said, eyes wide. So we're bonded? Until one of us dies. Okay, but can we renegotiate that? Chavila piped up from the co-pilot seat. I'm calling this now worst rescue ever. Rig grinned. Speak for yourself. I just accidentally got engaged. Althea kissed him. He saw fireworks, felt emotions he didn't know existed, tasted waffles, and heard Chavila dry heaving in the corner. The jungle air turned thick with anticipation. Every leaf seemed to whisper, every shadow a threat. Kalen kept one hand near his sidearm, not because he feared violence from Eliza, but because this planet had teeth, and not all of them were metaphorical. Eliza, despite her earlier confusion, was adapting quickly. The once slick shimmer of her skin was now dappled with scratches and smears of bark and dirt. Her gaze tracked everything, and when the wind shifted, she'd tilt her head in the same way predators did before they lunged. She was learning to survive. Because she had to. Kalen hadn't expected the pang that hit him when he realized he didn't want her to just survive. He wanted her to live. And not as some refugee on a Death World jungle moon, but as something more. They stopped near a ravine, a slash in the earth formed by old tectonic violence. Kalen scanned the terrain, looking for the remnants of the human outpost rumored to have been swallowed by the jungle years ago. Eliza crouched beside him, breathing heavily. "Why would humans live here?" she asked. "Because we thought we could tame it. We were wrong." "Why return?" "Because I have to find what they left behind." There was a research cache here, AI logs, data cores. If it's still intact, it might have answers. About the plant that attacked you. About why it reacted that way. Her silence was long, but then she asked, "Why do you care?" Kalen didn't answer at first. He reached into his pack and retrieved a silver capsule, no bigger than a child's fist. He pressed a button. A small hologram flickered to life. A woman's face, smiling. "Human. My sister," he said. "She was stationed here. Last message I got. She found something growing, something dangerous." Then silence. "I came here to find her remains. But I found you instead." The jungle didn't give moments of silence often. But just then, the birds hushed. Even the wind held its breath. "I'm sorry," Eliza said, her voice softer than before. "If I'd known, I wouldn't have." "It's not your fault," he interrupted. "And you being here might not be coincidence." She looked at him with a sharp tilt of her head. "You think I was sent?" "No. I think you were led here. Same as me." That night, they found an overgrown metal arch half buried beneath vines and moss. The emblem etched into it had faded, but Kalen recognized it, Federation Science Division. They dug. Beneath the roots and dirt, they unearthed a sealed hatch. Kalen wiped the grime off the control panel and connected a power cell. The lock disengaged with a hiss. Inside, the lab was surprisingly intact. Cold, sterile lights flickered on. Terminals hummed. Test tubes stood suspended in stasis. A data core blinked green. But more than that, there was something else. The tank. Inside floated a creature. Half-formed, like something in a dream made flesh. Its body was a mixture of plant and animal, eyes closed but breathing. Eliza stepped closer, her hand trembling. "That," she whispered. "That's what tried to eat me." "No," Kalen said, reading the data scrolling down the console. "That's what was trying to merge with you." The logs explained everything. Federation scientists had discovered the native flora contained a compound that mimicked neural tissue. Their experiments attempted to create biosentient beings, part plant, part mind. But the results were unstable. And then one log caught Kalen's eye. Subject 12. Ilari hybrid, female, alien, desert species, high neural compatibility detected. It was dated just 3 days before the final blackout. He turned to Eliza, her green skin, her sudden reaction, her connection to the jungle. "You were here before," he murmured. "I don't remember," she said, stepping back. "They used your DNA. You're not just from the desert world, Eliza. You're part of this experiment. You're the only one that survived it." Suddenly, the tank rattled. The creature inside stirred. Eliza gasped and stumbled back. The console alarms lit red. "Containment breach," Kalen said. "Move." The glass exploded. Fluid and shards sprayed outward. The creature shrieked. A wet, alien scream that sent birds scattering from the canopy above. Kalen pulled Eliza behind a console and fired once, twice, but the creature was fast. Vines lashed out, striking metal. The walls groaned. And then, before Kalen could reload, Eliza stepped forward. "No!" he shouted. But she wasn't afraid. She was changing. Her veins pulsed gold. Her skin shimmered with photosynthetic light. The jungle outside bent toward the lab like it was listening. The creature paused. Eliza raised one hand. I understand you now, she said to it. I know why you reached for me. Kaelin watched in stunned silence. The creature's tendrils slowly coiled back. The shape shifted, becoming more defined, less monstrous. You're not a weapon, Eliza whispered. You're a child. And then she collapsed. The jungle lay silent after the battle, the sky bleeding purple and gold through thick clouds of smoke drifting above the canopy. The enormous carnivorous plant that had once towered over the sacred grove was now nothing but a collapsing husk, its acidic fluid sizzling across the forest floor. In the center of the ruin stood Taver, shirtless and bloodied, his chest heaving as he held Elkara close, her limbs trembling, breath shallow, but alive. She looked up at him, her emerald eyes clouded with disbelief and something far more vulnerable, devotion. I never believed a human would come for me, she whispered, voice weak but steady. Not when even my own kin wouldn't. Taver brushed a leaf from her face and exhaled, his hands cupping her cheeks. You didn't need 100 warriors, Elkara. You needed someone who gave a damn. She let out a broken laugh, half choked by emotion. Then why would you risk your life? For me, he tilted her chin gently. Because you told me not to let go. And I never will. A wave of silence passed between them, filled with meaning words could never carry. Around them, the jungle began to reclaim its calm, vines curling downward, the wind brushing softly through the leaves as if the world itself sighed in relief. When they returned to the outpost 2 days later, Elkara had not only survived, she had changed. She walked straighter now, no longer the exile left for dead. Tribal leaders came from the highlands and the crystalline coasts to witness her return. The jungle spirits that had once turned their backs now whispered through the winds again. She was the one who had come back, the one who had endured. But at her side, always, was the human who had defied death, superstition, and even her own belief that she was unworthy of love. Taver had expected suspicion, even rejection from her people, but instead found himself standing before their council as Elkara, in ceremonial dress of dark feathers and silver bone, placed a hand on his chest. This is the man who tore open the maw of death, she declared, voice strong, proud. The human who fought our demons when we would not. I owe him more than life. I owe him my soul. Gasps stirred the crowd. Then, to everyone's shock, especially his, Elkara turned to him, eyes fierce and unwavering. According to the rites of my ancestors, she said solemnly, to save a life in the sacred grove binds you to it. I am yours, Taver. If you'll have me. He swallowed, then laughed. Only if you stop punching giant plants in the face. The crowd stared. Elkara grinned, showing those sharp canines that no longer looked dangerous to him, but beautiful. I make no promises, she teased. They kissed there, under the sacred arch of obsidian vines, and in that kiss was everything they had fought for: freedom, defiance, trust, and a strange, brilliant love that had bloomed in the most impossible of places. Their story became legend across systems, of the alien girl once devoured and the human who pulled her free not just from death, but from the prison of her past. And somewhere, deep in the jungle, something ancient and vast shifted in the earth, watching the new queen and her strange consort with amused reverence. Because love, after all, was the wildest magic of them all.